So I bought the goofy looking Moschino Toy Boy 2 and it definitely surprised me. I've been wearing it quite a bit since I bought it and I think it's time to talk about it. So I'm gonna go through what it smells like, performance, usage, compliments and mass appeal. But before I begin, if you absolutely love smelling good, then make sure you drop a like and subscribe for more. So this is the bottle and it definitely has a similar design compared to the OG. So I paid about 30 bucks for 30 ml of Toy Boy 2. I can't unfortunately remember what I paid for 100 ml of the OG, but I do know that the OG can be found for around 50 bucks on discounters. So I'm not sure if I overpaid for this or if it's a bit more expensive because it's newer. So let's put it on and talk about what it smells like. And Toy Boy 2, yeah, okay, Toy Boy 2 really doesn't hold back when you spray it on. And to my nose, it's a richly spicy opening that's got a bit of sweetness to it. On my skin, cardamom and nutmeg cutting through quite intensely in the opening. So to my nose, the opening is basically a combination of spicy warmth with a bit of sweetness. And in less than 2 minutes, you are getting a dose of coffee. And to my nose, the coffee here is not perhaps an overly warm cup of coffee, but it does have a bit of warmth to it. So I do feel this is like a warm cup of coffee with a sort of a milky touch to it. But here's the twist, and this might sound weird, even though I'm saying that this is like a warm cup of coffee with a bit of a milk, I don't think this is overly sort of a milky in any way. And when I, in the beginning of this video, said that Moschino Toy Boy 2 surprised me, the heart of it is definitely when I went like, whoa, this is really nice, but also quite different. And another reason why I was so surprised was because I was in a way sort of expecting something that would be a bit sort of similar to the OG, which is so unique in such a polarizing way. This definitely has quite a bit of uniqueness to it, but it definitely moves away from the uniqueness of the OG and also from the more polarizing kind of scent that the OG is. So what I'm trying to say is that do not expect the newer Toy Boy 2 to be anything similar to the OG. So at this point, at least to my nose, the whole thing is almost like a spiced up cup of warm coffee with a bit of a milk to it without it being overly milky in any way. And that cup of coffee definitely has a bit of a sweetness to it, but I do not find it to be an overly sweet kind of scent. You can definitely pick up on a bit of woodiness. And to my nose, this is definitely quite a smooth, slightly warm, creamy and nuanced kind of woodiness. The more Toy Boy 2 dries down, the woodier, definitely warmer the whole thing gets. You can definitely feel that there's a mix of woody notes in here. The coffee is still there, it's still a bit spicy, and it's definitely still a bit sweet. One noticeable difference though is that in the dry down, I do feel that Toy Boy 2 turns more creamy, smooth and balsamic. So one way to sort of summarize Moschino Toy Boy 2 is that this is a spiced up cup of coffee that's a bit sweet and ambery with quite a big dose of woodiness to it. That cup of coffee definitely has a milky kind of feel to it, but I do not feel it's a milky kind of scent, if that makes sense. And the whole thing is definitely, at least in the dry down, quite creamy, smooth and balsamic. I am going to do a full in-depth comparison of the OG Toy Boy and the newer Toy Boy 2. But if you ever put your nose to the OG Toy Boy, then you already know from what I told you that Toy Boy 2 is very, very different. Even though this kind of scent is definitely, in a way, a bit more familiar, I do feel Toy Boy 2 has quite a bit of uniqueness to it. But with that said, I do feel the OG is in its own sort of a league when it comes to uniqueness. The OG is definitely very unique. However, the original is also a lot more polarizing. This is definitely both easier to wear, and most people will most definitely enjoy getting a whiff of this more than the OG. And while Toy Boy 2 is definitely a head-turning kind of scent, the OG turns more heads for sure. So let's talk a bit about the vibe here. There are so many nuances and layers to the vibe here. It's both casual and a bit classy. The overall scent though, with the coffee and the quite nuanced dose of woodiness, definitely makes it stand out with quite a sexy and playful vibe to it. And the overall feel is definitely quite a flirty one. Let's move on to compliments and mass appeal. that initial quite intensely spicy opening can be a bit challenging to some, but once it moves into the dry run, I do feel the whole thing becomes quite likable and quite mass appealing. I mean, you can't compare the mass appeal of Toy Boy 2 to something like YSOY or the Parfum. However, I do feel that once Toy Boy 2 moves into the dry run, it becomes very likable and quite mass appealing. So let's talk a bit about performance. I'm actually getting quite good performance out of this really strong projection. This thing is easily noticeable for like the first few hours, and the whole thing lasts quite a while, at least on my skin. So let's talk a bit about the usage, so like seasons and occasions. When it comes to seasons, I do feel this is a scent that is on the warmer, richer and deeper side of things. So this, at least to my nose, is more suitable for spring, fall and winter, with the focus on fall and winter. I'm actually gonna try this on summer nights though. As for occasions, I do feel this is pretty much perfect for date nights and going out for someone who wants something that is a bit different. You would definitely get noticed with this thing on. So who is Moschino Toy Boy 2 for? Now, this is a fragrance I highly recommend to try before you buy. But here's the thing, I find it so hard to find a physical store that even has Moschino fragrances. I couldn't find it anywhere else than on an online discounter. But I do feel that the sort of a baseline here is that you should know that you enjoy quite spicy, intense fragrances. Number two, you should definitely know that you enjoy a bit of coffee in fragrances. And number three, since this has quite a nuanced kind of woodiness, I do feel that you should know that you enjoy quite woody fragrances. If not, stay away. So I actually don't have a lot of alternatives for Moschino Toy Boy simply because I do not have a lot of coffee-focused fragrances. I wish I had more though. So if you have any fantastic suggestions on great coffee-focused fragrances, then let me know in the comments. A fantastic alternative that I think is absolutely gorgeous is Gentleman Society Extreme. For more of my thoughts on Givenchy Gentleman Society Extreme and why I think it's the best in the Gentleman Society line, I'm gonna link to my Gentleman Society comparison and ranked somewhere up here and in the description below. Fantastic dose of coffee, but these two are very different. So what are my final thoughts on Moschino Toy Boy 2 and how am I going to rate it? Like I said before, it really surprised me for basically for two reasons. Number one, it's so different compared to the OG. Number two, it's a gorgeous coffee-focused fragrance that actually has quite a bit of uniqueness to it. And I'm pretty much always on the lookout for great coffee-focused scents. So that was a very positive surprise. The way the spiciness blends with the coffee, that milky kind of feel that it has, that is not moving into something that is overly milky in any way. And it's fantastic, creamy, smooth, and almost sort of a balsamic woodiness in the dry run is a great combination. Toy Boy 2 is definitely not for everyone, but I do feel it's for someone who wants something that's different. And this is a cup of coffee that I really like. And I'm gonna give Toy Boy 2 something between 8 and 8.5. Now I really want to hear from you. How do you feel about the Moschino Toy Boy 2? Is it a like? Do you absolutely love it? Do you feel it's mid or do you absolutely dislike it? Let me know in the comments. Please drop a like and subscribe for more and make sure to check out my other videos over there.